Okay, we are live. It's a show time now. It's a show time. Yeah, we are live.
Hey, what's up, Needy?
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Just for those that are just catching in right now, I'm going to go ahead and try to retweet the live stream right now. There it is.
Yeah, just,
Uh, and let me
we
repost
are
this.
welcoming you all as well for
Yes.
giving your valuable time to us on every Friday, Thursday, most probably, yeah, for 1 hour. We are here to give you whatever in the Web3 that you need to build your great, good projects, good tabs on a Metis network.
No worries. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Billy, Billy Jitsu from API3, Developer Relations on here. So if you haven't been following along, we've had quite a few workshops. We are on workshop 3C. I'll do a quick recap in the slideshow, but we, learned how to use oracles,
Yeah.
understanding what API3 oracles have with like oracle extractable value, which we'll cover again today. And then how to deploy your own Aave fork on any chain you chose. So we
Yeah.
did it on Metis. And then the second to last workshop that we just did right now was liquidation, just a regular liquidation, understanding how the liquidation process works. It didn't work because the testnet was having some issues, but I
Yeah.
have it back again. So I'm going to give you that one
Yeah.
really quick before we get into the other one.
Yeah.
But
We'll
let's
be
go
waiting
into,
there.
yeah,
So
go
we'll
into
be
the
waiting
slideshow.
like a couple of minutes and we're gonna
Yeah.
start. So
Yeah. Let
I
me,
just want to make sure that people join. Like it's I can see like 100 have been already joined. So let's
yeah.
wait for a few couple of minutes, like 1 2 minutes, and we'll be good. Like it's 11:1. We can start at 11:03.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, as soon as
Yeah.
we, get into the slideshow and get into the nitty gritty, I think more people will show up. But yeah,
Yeah.
let me just do a quick intro. So again, I am from API3. Real world data for Web3 is basically we pull first party oracles into a price feed for your, borrow lending DApp, perpetual, futures, anything that you have that has to do with finances. We handle your cryptocurrency. Again, I am your API3 development support. I am the developer advocate, DevRel. If you like memes, sarcasm, and some tech talk, I'm your guy.
Yeah,
For
he's
delivery.
always available on Twitter.
I keep up to date with the latest trends and stuff, and I'm always about liquidations and whatnot. So we just witnessed one of the biggest liquidations in crypto's history, about $2.6 billion, and I am so happy to announce that our OEV product worked perfectly. So super awesome to hear that. So to recatch anybody that's watching this series later or they're watching on YouTube, our first workshop that we've ever done with Metis is the fundamentals of API3, how to use API3 price feeds on your smart contract, how to use the marketplace, learn how to use an adapter if you're forking code that was using another Oracle. There is a small update as that as well. We actually do support aggregator v3 interface right out of the box. So if you are pulling decimals or if you're pulling something with that requires some kind of data, it should just work right out of the box. Either or you could also use the adapter. So that's a cool update that we listened to the devs, we listened to the dApps, and we modified what we needed to get things working, making it easier. Second workshop is Oracle extractable value, understanding how push and pull oracles work, introduction to the OEV network, why it exists, and then we learned how to bid on the OEV network and update a price in real time. Right, so that was done on mainnet because there is no testnet version for that. Third workshop, which we are currently in the series of, was learning how to deploy Aave, learning how to deploy your own version of Aave. For those that love to do AI or AI bots, there's that whole trend of DeFi AI, right? DeFi AI. But
Yeah.
the biggest limitation that I've seen personally for that is like they can't really interact with a lot of these testnet things because it's very limited. So the power of having your own borrow lending DApp where your own AI agent can then work off of is very powerful because you're not, looking for testnet tokens that are, the faucet's not working or anything like that. You control everything on that situation. You control everything on the oracles. You control everything on the, whatever the parameters are. So having your own borrow lending DApp that your AI agent can work with is very, very powerful. I want to see more than deploying a token and making a transfer, right? We want to see more from that. So having your own Aave workshop deployed is super awesome. So make sure to check that out. The one we did previously was just liquidating a position with an EOA wallet with just the function call. And today we are actually going to do it with OEV network on there. So we're going to bid on OEV, update a price feed, and then liquidate through a smart contract instead of an EOA.
And all the previous workshops are available on the YouTube as well as on the Twitter, but finding on YouTube will be more easier, I guess. So yeah,
Yes.
you can go to YouTube and check all the available workshops with the API3 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to the YouTube for Metis chain and just type in
Yeah,
API3, you'll
yeah,
see all the
yeah.
workshops
Exactly.
available on there. And
Yeah.
then in the future coming workshop is okay, I understand how to do OEV, I understand how to do liquidations, but I don't have $1 million to pay back this loan, right? Well, that's how
Flash
we have
loan.
flash loans, right? We have flash
Yeah.
loans on here. So we can borrow the money from our own borrow lending DApp, assuming it has the money, pay back the loan, and then pay back, whatever we need, and then keep the profits, right? So basically we could do this all with very little money other than gas. Right. So that is a very, very good potential for anybody to make money that doesn't have a lot of money. This is where a lot of this goes, whether the market's going up or the market's going down, you can still make money, right? And the biggest liquidation we had is kind of the most money that API3 has made for 2025, right? Instead of using token value, we've made it all on liquidations and OEV. And the people that were using us for the oracles, they got money back. Compound got, I think, $150,000 back on a couple $3 million liquidations. That's money they got back for just using us, not doing anything special, just using our oracle. So that's pretty cool. So anyways, perform a liquidation with OEV is the focus for today. So let's go through the workshop breakdown. We're going to understand the changes to OEV. If you're watching the YouTube video from last year, we are now on OEV V2. There made some changes from some searchers. We got some feedback and we made some adjustments. So we have a new auction model. We have new timeframes for that OEV auction. And then we're all going to understand the mechanics of an OEV liquidation, right? We got to get the median price of an oracle, which I'm going to explain shortly, and then the flow of the entire liquidation. So I'm going to bring this back for those that kind of want to recap about the OEV network to doing a liquidation, right? We are our searcher, right? And we have to have a little bit of money on the OEV network, right? So, if I wanted to, bid 1 ETH, I only have to have 10% of that on the OEV network. This is probably the only investment you're going to need. So I'll need like 0.1 ETH on the OEV network. This allows me to bid, put a little skin in the game. If I don't behave, I'm going to get slashed, right? If you behave, you could just pull that 0.1 ETH back and you're good to go. Right. So we're going to place a bid. It's like, hey, I want to earn this bid. I want to liquidate this position. If I win, I get this special signature, right? Me as a searcher will then do a transaction sent through a callback smart contract. It's no longer a multi-call. We're doing it through a smart contract, and we'll cover that shortly as well. So some of that is, send whatever I was willing to bid to the API3 server, and then do my update feed and liquidation transaction to the sequencer, which is on Metis, and then, update the token price feed, and then liquidate, perform, and then everything gets updated, ready to go. We make profit, the DApp makes profit, everybody wins. So it's a good situation. I'm not going to go too detailed into that because we cover that in the second workshop and there's a lot to cover. But if you do have questions on there, feel free to ask away. And so now, what are the changes with OEV v2? We again more optimized for liquidators. So there is an auction every 30 seconds when they begin, and it goes on indefinitely. What does that mean? So if they have a price of ETH USD on Metis and RAT BTC USD on Metis, every time there's an auction, once that auction starts, every 30 seconds from now it goes. Doesn't mean that ETH USDC and RAT BTC start at the same time. There could be a 2-second difference, there could be 5-second difference, and it'll always be that way. But it'll happen indefinitely. If no one bids on the auction, it's just business as normal, right? There is a 30-second delay on the signed value and the update. So if we're looking at the marketplace price and ETH USD is $2,340, but we know in 30 seconds it's going to be $2,341, we can see that price in the future. So what we're bidding on is that future price. So if I did my calculations and I know I can liquidate someone at 3,000, what did I say, $3,241, whatever I said, we know that we can liquidate. We're going to bid on that price because we have this 30-second delay on there. So then we're bidding on the next price. So that way, when we get it, we can update it and then do the liquidations. So we know what the price is going to be within 30 seconds. Right? The auction length for each one of these auctions is 25 seconds. And then the 5 seconds after that 25 seconds, we're going to know who won, and that person gets the signature on there. And then the winner, once I win, has a full 30 seconds. That next 30 seconds has a full 30 seconds to update the oracle and the next auction begins. So that means if, I have a price of liquidation of, 24.31, right? and I do it, and then all of a sudden it drops even more. We have a black swan event, and there's more liquidations that can happen in that 30 seconds. I can update it again and liquidate, update it again, liquidate, update, and just go for 30 seconds and continuously. So if we do have some kind of black swan event, or there's more opportunities when I won that bid in that 30-second time frame, I can update that feed as many times as I want. I'm going to try to do a visual on there in just a second. But part two of what changes, liquidations are slightly different from the same workshop, right? Instead of bulking the transactions on a multi-call, if we remember from the last script, I would update the price proxy and then in the array add the liquidation script. Well, now there's a callback function, right? In that callback function in the smart contract level, it's going to update the price feed, kind of like a flash loan, which we haven't covered yet. But when you call back something, you send the transaction, certain things have to happen at the very end. And then it kind of comes back to the smart contract and saying, okay, as long as all these items are met and the callback function is okay, the whole transaction will go through. So that's the way we do it here. So now in that callback function in the smart contract, which I'm going to cover, you're going to see the liquidation logic within there. So we're going to update the price feed. It's going to do some magic. We put our liquidation in the middle. And at the very end, it's okay, everything's been complete the transaction on there. And that's how most liquidations happen within the flash loan as well. And then what this allows is it allows the payments to the OEV server. Remember, when we bid, we have to pay that to the API3 server. Just to scroll this up really quick so you can see it again. Remember, this bid onto the payment server. Well, what happens if you don't have a lot of ETH on the chain is you can't pay, right? So now you can pay the OEV server after you got the liquidation. So you can pay it with the profits, right? So all you really need to invest is just have a little bit of money on the OEV network, and you don't need to have a lot of money on any mainnet, right? So you're not putting ETH at risk. You're not putting anything at risk. If you win the bid and you get a successful liquidation, you can pay back the API3 server and the flash loan and everything you have with just the callback on there. So that's a little fancy little update to make sure that you're not required to have a lot of money to get started with this. So again, like I said, it only allows searchers to only have a minimum amount of ETH to start searching for opportunities. So you can do this with few bucks in order to make this happen. Okay, let's visualize it, right? Because I said a lot of words, but it's hard to look. I'm a visual learner. So we have auction one, let's say for ETH USD, right? So auction one starts for 25 seconds. The auction is going on. Anybody can bid. Needy can bid. I can bid. Anybody watching the video can start bidding right here. After 25 seconds up, it's going to let us know who won this auction, and it's going to send that person the signature to update that feed, right? If it was ETH USD, Unmetis, or whatever I wanted to update, that's where it goes. After auction one has completed, this is my time to shine, right? I can start updating the Oracle and pushing everything I have on all the updates that can happen. In the same time that this winner is updating, there is another auction happening at the same time. So as I'm updating, everybody knows 30 seconds from now, this is what the next auction is going to be. I can then still auction off for this next one because I see that the market's dumping and I see more opportunities. I can bid on this while I'm updating, or somebody else can bid on the next 30 seconds. And then that 5 seconds, it stops. We see who wins. And then whoever wins auction 2 then has their 30 seconds to go on and on and on. And the third second goes on. If nobody bids, it's just business as usual. The Oracle acts as normal. It doesn't do anything special. But if someone is bidding and there's a bidding war for good opportunities, it's going to happen every 30 seconds. And that next 30 seconds, that winner gets their opportunity to do their updates while the second or third or fourth auction is happening. And it will go on indefinitely for that price feed. Hopefully that makes sense and it's kind of clear on there.
For me, it's a bit clear.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it's basically there's auctions happening on every chain, on every feed, for every DApp at any given time. You can do it through the block timestamp of each one. And then every 30 seconds, there's going to be a new auction from wherever it started.
So, I have one question. If a winner disconnects during their 30-second update period, so does it automatically go to the second highest bidder, or does the whole auction cycle, I mean, restart?
No, so if I win auction one, right, and I have that 30 seconds to update, and let's say I disconnect or I lose internet and I don't update the price feed, well, I'm going to get slashed. Remember, I'm going to go back to this. Remember this bid, I have to put a little ETH in order to bid. Well, it's
Hmm.
basically saying if I don't behave correctly and I just keep the price as is, then I'm going to lose whatever I'm bidding on this OEV network. I'm not going to get slashed. So you have to have at least one update in this time zone in order to not get slashed. If 30 seconds pass and I win, I will get slashed. But no one's going to want to bid and not do a liquidation, right? We're going to bid some, decent amount of money. There's a reason why, because I'm going to get a liquidation for a nice 5%, 10% return. So I have 30 seconds to make that happen on there. If I don't, I get slashed. And if I do it 2 times, doesn't matter. It's fine. I did it 1 time. Answer
Okay.
your question?
Yeah, got it,
Okay,
got it.
no problem. So bringing it back to liquidations, we did this on the last workshop, but I want to make sure that we have it because it's the same formula with OEV or regular liquidations. Health factor is based on our collateral. So like if we deposited some tokens like ETH, liquidation threshold, which is let's say 70% or 75%, and then how much we borrowed away from it. Like, so if we over borrowed on ETH falls down in value, our health factor gets low. If it goes below 1, then we're in trouble, right? So just bringing that back is the value of our collateral. So like ETH, liquidation threshold, borrowing is our borrowing capacity. This when we deposit into Aave or we deposit a compound or any other borrowing lending network, this is the max we can borrow. Here, I'm just going to bring this screen over here. You should recognize this thing from the last one, right? I've deposited these fake API3 tokens. I've supplied it. And so this is the value. The max borrow I have is this. If I wanted to borrow any more, I can't. You see, there's no more that I can borrow. And actually in this, I am in a bad health factor. I'm not healthy. I can be liquidated. So because of the workshop, I've set that up exactly to what it is. But this is the formula that you're going to be checking. You'll always be checking the health factor to know, okay, this person can be liquidated and I can have an opportunity. So, excuse me, just to bring it back on liquidations on lending protocols, if we do this correctly on any liquidation, on any chain, right, the Oracle update must happen first in order for the health factor to change, right? If I borrowed ETH at $3,000, right, the Oracle update has to say, oh no, ETH went down to 2,900. The Oracle has to update first. Once that Oracle updates first and it's okay, ETH is 2,900, we know that our health factor is going to change, right? If the health factor changes, our searchers like me and you, Needy, we're looking, oh, look at this health factor. It changed. We can liquidate, right? So we want to do the transaction. We're both pushing the transaction onto the meta sequencer. That's where we have compensation for block space, right? I can't theoretically bribe the sequencer. It's not like mainnet where we can do, different validators and say, hey, I'll give you 100 ETH to put mine first. There's only one sequencer right now. So it's like, okay, who gets it, right? So if you look on chain, you'll see that when it's really close, there's going to be like 40, 50 different transactions from different people spamming the same transaction over and over again until one gets it and they're the winner, right? And so I spent all this time, and if you got it, you wasted a lot of RPCs to make it happen. I didn't get anything, so I'm like, I'm at a negative because I've been, wasting the transaction calls, right? And eventually, whoever wins, they get liquidated. But with OEV, right, we control this first part. We control when the Oracle updates, right? For 30 seconds, I get to choose the Oracle update. And then once I choose the Oracle update, everything else falls into place. I don't have to compete for the block space because I run it and I bolt the transaction in the same smart contract. And so I get the profit, right? So by winning the OEV bid, I control this for 30 seconds. So bringing it back to the Aave layout, we want to make sure that we are, again, doing the same thing on the lending pool, right? The same contract we interact, we have the deposit, we withdraw, borrow, repay that most people use on the front end. And then the details in the back is that we have this liquidate, right? We did this liquidate function. Again, on the last workshop on the testnet, it didn't work out because there was some RPC error. And then also flash loan. So this is the most important contract that we're going to be working with as a liquidator, as a user. This is the main one. And all these are other contracts. Like this is for the token. This is the lending rate Oracle, which we will be looking into as well. All the configurations for all these contracts, the Oracle's proxies, and then the DEP stable coins on here. But I just wanted to recap that from the last workshop because it's basically the same thing. We're just adding the OEV layer on top. So enough chatting. Everybody likes to build stuff. This is the link to an example. Now, historically, we've been using the same repo for all the liquidation stuff, but this one is different. We are using an external repo. So we'll be referencing quite a few things from the deployed Aave contract into the this new repo, because as a liquidator, you're not going to have all the borrow lending stuff in the same repo. You're just going to have your liquidation contracts separate. So you would have this as a separate one as well. So let's go ahead and get started. But first things
Yeah,
first, I
let's
do
go.
owe you guys a liquidation here. So let me bring this back and go
The last
into
one, right?
this. Yeah, this one right here. So I have this liquidation here, and let me close this out, and let's bring that back into this dashboard right here, right? So we have this health factor of 0.99. We know we can liquidate this person right now. We've, again, from the last one, we knew that the parameters were set. We knew what supplies they have. They have that mock API3. They're borrowing USDC. So we have to pay that back, and we're going to receive API3 tokens, right? So we pay back the USDC. We're pay about half of it. We're going to get, about whatever percentage on here, 5% on the mock API3 as a reward. So we're going to be in, a bit of profit, and their health factor is going to go up. So let me go ahead and just recap that liquidation script really quickly. And so, we're basically gathering all the data from there. We're referring to a lot of these deployed references scripts like the lending DApp and all the tokens that we have. So I just make a shortcut for you on this repo. Make it as simple as possible. Remember, our first wallet is going to be the one that liquidates on that same mnemonic key. The second one is the one that we are going to liquidate. Keeps it really simple so you can kind of automate stuff with one, mnemonic address. And then again, the lending pool address is the most important one. That's the one that we interact with withdraw, deposit, liquidate, flash loan on here. And then we're just building the object on there. We're going to verify that the liquidation user is this person. So I have a lot of console logs on here, and we are going to receive the API3 token. We're going to pay back the USDC address. We get the user account data, which is the information on that user. Again, I try to do everything as simple as possible. So if you look at this one script, you see that I'm just importing everything. It's more about learning. It's not the most optimized for maximizing, but reading the ABIs directly versus importing ABIs and understanding how each part works is kind of the point of this series. So we would get user data. We would look exactly what you have, your total collateral worth in ETH, debt worth in ETH, the available borrows you have left, and the liquidation threshold. So I kind of comment all that out for you to see so you can see it clear. And then the main part here, which, checking the health factor, making sure that all goes, is we are going to perform this liquidation call, right? It's one function that we have to call. We're just calling liquidation call, right? We're going to say this is the collateral asset that they're default on, API3 address. This is the debt address. They took out USDC because we know that, right? I'm going to pay this back. This is the wallet we want to liquidate. The debt to cover is the max. We want to cover the max thing. Why would we ever not want to cover max to maximize our profit, right? Max UN 256 at an ethers is basically 0 FFFFFF 111. We want the maximum amount. And then do we want to receive the A tokens? No, I want to receive the native token so I could swap it, do whatever I want. So we're just sending this one liquidation call, and it's just going to say, all right, transaction sent. And then we do a quick update to see, what the liquidation user's position is after we did the liquidation. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and yarn liquidate and then run that liquidation here. It's going to go through the script. Oh, and I have to yarn. I have to start the front end too. And let me go here. There we go. So just stretching this out here, the health factor position is 0.99. Just console logs let you know where we're at. We're seeing the position details in ETH. We see that, again, the health factor is this low. It's preparing for the liquidation. We're going to max liquidate this value in ETH, right? And liquidation has been successful. So let me go ahead and load that front end really quick. Let me just, there we go, yarn front end dev, and that should load up. So the liquidation was a success. I just forgot that I turned off the dashboard here. So let me go ahead and reload it in just a second. And we should see that our position is now healthy again because we got liquidated. We lost some money and we woke up in the morning. So that's what happened to a lot of people like last week. They went to sleep, woke up, got liquidated, right? $2.6 billion on here. And so you see my health factor is now 115, $448, right? Half of my debt got paid back. And you see that my balance is much, much lower on there because I got liquidated, right? So half of my balance was paid back. Some of my tokens were removed. That was based on the last workshop on here. So this is basically using an EOA wallet. I happen to have USDC in that EOA wallet, and I call that single function. So that works in a perfect, testnet environment, a local environment, but that's not how you really do it in real life, right? So in this OEV search or liquidation, that same thing that we kind of loaded up, we have all these things. We have this auction house, this feed liquidator, this updater. So if you look at workshop number 2, the OEV network, you'll see that this OEV feed updater is a little bit different than what the multi-call was. If you remember, we had this multi-call that would, just group up everything and kind of loop through all the transactions. And then you see there's quite a few more scripts on here. So this ENV has a lot of information that you need in order for it to make it work. These are referencing the docs that we've done on our deployment on Aave. So if we go over to the original fork of our deployment, just to recap, on our API3 adapters, when we deployed stuff, you would remember that we'd have these references, right? These are all the assets that we had on this chain, right? We had the USDC, we had this adapter, we have all these different tokens, and then we have these Oracle adapters, right? And then when we deployed the Aave mainnet, we had these deployed contracts, and then you see that we have this Aave Oracle, and then we have this lending pool, all these important addresses that we need, right? Lending pool.sol is a very important one that we need to connect with. So these are where you're going to grab these sources. As a searcher, these are on the docs, right? On Aave, Compound, DYDX, you're going to see important contract addresses. These are our important contract addresses here. So in the README on the searcher liquidator, I explain that. Let me make sure I have that refreshed. That you look at understanding the EMV sources. I tell you where to get it, right? Your mnemonic is your 12-word phrase. OEV network RPC is OEV network. That one's hard-coded. Your target network RPC is the chain RPC you're liquidating on. I'm using a private one, so I'm not going to give that to you, right? But you can use one. You don't want to use a public one. You want to use one that you can rely on here. The lending pool address, exactly where you're going to get it from. The token to repay address is what, like the USDC that we're paying. The token to receive, the USDC proxy. So what's the price feed address on that? What's the adapter we're using? The collateral mock proxy. This is for our testing one right here. So in order for me to do an actual liquidation in real time, I can't predict the time. I can't make the price oracles go down on mainnet. So I'm creating a fake proxy where I can control the price. And then we have this collateral asset proxy, which is actually the collateral asset of it. You can use it from the references, or you can go to the real live market, API3.org. So this collateral asset process is similar to the API3 one that we're going to be using. Who are we liquidating, right? That's the wallet we're going to copy in there. We're going to use the original API3 Oracle proxy, which is the market.api3.org proxy. And then we're going to use the Aave Oracle Manager, because what we're going to need to do is we need to look at the price of the assets to make sure they're liquidable in order to do so. And then if you follow through the list, you'll see that it's very simple, and I take you step by step by each part of it, explaining each part of what all the proxies are. But let's just go ahead through the Oracle. I lost the whole screen here. Sorry, Needy. Let me find you again. 1 second as I'm looking for you. No. I have too many windows open.
Now I think it's hard to find me.
Okay, so let's go through this updater, right? So the first thing that we need to do, and we've done this on the previous one, is we're going to deposit collateral to the OEV network, meaning you had to have bridged a little bit of ETH on the OEV network. And you see that basically it's calling one deposit function. We're depositing that 0.001 ETH just to get some auctions on here. So deposit collateral has nothing to do with anything else in here other than we're depositing collateral. What we want to do is deploy our OEV feed updater. That used to be deployed like this is the contract that updates the price. That's it. Like, so if we win the bid, we need a contract that updates the price. Basically, we build out, where our target one, like if we're doing on Metis, and then the OEV, which the chain ID, we have all these, API3 contract chain IDs built into it. So you don't have to look it up. It's already done. As soon as you do the RPC, oh, Metis, oh, mainnet, it already knows the chain ID. And we're going to do the, it just basically builds the object for the OEV feed updater. The most important right here is this DApp ID. So with changes to the OEV network, we can't update one Oracle and then update all the Oracles at the same time. So now anybody that chooses to use OEV, like Compound or anybody that they have their own dedicated DApp ID, they're on the DApp ID registry. You can look at that DApp ID registry on the searcher docs here. On here, and I have that link it's actually in the docs, but you can have it in the README. It has the OEV dApps catalog. So if you want to be a searcher and you want to go specifically for API3, you can look at everybody that is using all the API3 oracles. this will be updated very soon because there's a lot more people that have been added on. But let's say if I want to go to Lendl, I can check out to see exactly what their chain ID is. So then I want to update Oracle specifically for this on the DApp registry. And in the DApp registry, I can look at where each one of the IDs are under each project. And then it'll tell me, oh, okay, this is exactly what their IPs or the DApp ID is on there. So you can go into the docs and look at that. So right now for generic on the marketplace, it's always DApp ID 1. So if you want to test this at home, you'll be updating the one of the prices that are literally living on the market, API3.org. And if I were to do Metis and I were to do this and pop in the BTC USD, if I did DApp ID 1 on BTC, we'd be updating this specific price here on demo on there. It would not affect any of the other dApps, just in case. So basically, the deploys this factory. And what does this do? We'll go through it really quick. OEV updater. You'll see it's a little bit more complicated. I ran the scripts already to kind of like let you know what happens. But let me go ahead and just minimize this pay feed beat and update and on OEV bid payment. It's basically two functions right here, right? The constructor to deploy it is basically we're deploying a contract specifically for that DApp ID. So if I'm going to liquidate on Compound, it's going to be specifically for that DApp ID for Compound. So every DApp that you want to liquidate on is going to have its own special contract. And then the API3 server that is on that network. So if I was doing it on Metis, it would be on the API3 server on Metis, which is basically the same contract address nearly for every chain that's out there on here. Everything is just basically structures of how the layout is set. And so what we're going to do on our liquidation feed is we're going to pay the bid and update. Basically, we've won our bid. We're going to pass that signature into the smart contract, and it's going to look, oh, how much did you bid? What was the cutoff time? Did you make it within the 30 seconds? And show me the proof that you actually won the bid, right? You need the signature in order to make it work. And then it's like, okay, it's going to have all this callback data. It does some magic in the API3 server side. There's some, black magicry, and then it comes back to the OEV payment right here. So it calls it back. This is what we mean about the callback. So this callback is triggered when we first call this. This one goes through and basically making sure that everything, passed the checks and balances. It's going to decode all our data. At this point, we're only updating the OEV feed. So it's just literally going to call the update data feed with the DApp ID that we passed and the data that we signed off. And then it's going to pay off the API3 server with the bid amount that we bid. And then it's going to let us know that return that everything was a success. We did it. Amazing, right? Similar to what we did on the first workshop where we just updated the price feed and we did it with a multi-call. Now here we're just doing it on a two-function callback, right? So this one starts it off. It talks to the API3 server contract, makes sure that everything is legit. Everything looks legit. We're going to go back to the OEV bid payment, and then we make sure that we update the price feed. So the difference is we're going to add in our logic in order to do a liquidation, right? So the same kind of function call that we did on the EOA, we're just going to add that into the contract. So if you look at the thing, I have this OEV feed liquidator, right? And so you see that I have a couple more things in here that need to make it happen in order for us to liquidate. First thing first, we have to interface with the lending pool contract, right? If we remember from that chart, lending pool is the one we need to interact with Aave. I have that locked into this vendor protocol v2 interfaces because lending pool uses 0.6 solidity, like 0.6 on something. Just integrating it makes it very difficult. So I had to basically refactor that. So in vendor, if you go to protocol v2, you go to the interfaces, lending pool, refactor them to be 817 to match solidity 817, right? And then it's a copy and paste. They're just interfaces that we use in order to, interact with the Aave contracts, right? So it has the deposit, the withdraw, the borrow. It's not compiling anything. It's just the interface of how we handle our interaction with that contract. And it does have some imports. So on these imports, right, the lending pool address provider and the data type. So again, I have interfaces for those, refactored to 817 as well for the data types. So that is
So,
there
I
ready
mean,
for
we
you.
have to refactor this contract, the old version of contract. Otherwise, we will be having, version issues.
Yes, you if you wanted to compile it, it'll say, "Oh, it doesn't work. You're using 8.17 and you're using 6." Compatibility issues, compiler issues. So
Yeah.
just a small refactor. Most people will be doing maybe Aave v3 or Compound v3. Those are a little bit more up to date. But with our example with the fork, we're using v2 because it's easier to understand. So it's just a small change on that. And again, it doesn't do anything on damage. It's just a matter of this is how we have to interface it, right? I also have the ownable ones for the opens up in contracts for 4.95. We're not using V5 yet, but just so you keep that up to date. Right here, ownable. And then same thing for interface. We want to interface with tokens, right? So we have the ERC20 interface and the ownable because we want to own our contract, right? So those are the three things that I added to this contract because we need to be able to interact with tokens, right? Because it's going to be through a smart contract, and we need to be able to interact with the Aave, V2 interface to liquidate, right? And so pretty much the same thing. We're have the structs, almost all the same stuff are here. The only thing is we're going to have a lending pool address because we need to interact with the Aave one. So that's going to be the most important one. But if we go into the constructor, you'll see that we have the DApp ID, API3 server extensions, which is the same thing, or the only thing we're adding on is a lending pool. So now we have a lending pool interaction directly to our smart contract. We can pass that through, but this makes it easier if we do it in the constructor. So we know that contract is directly for this instance of Aave, right? And so if you look into the pay feed and details, it's exactly the same, right? Does the same thing, just make sure that our bid amount's good, make sure within the time range, getting our signature and the callback data. The magic happens on the callback, this second function, right? After it went through the API3 server, made sure our bid was correct. It's basically the same thing, but we're passing a little bit more data on this data code, right? So same thing, we're going to update the price feed. First thing that we're going to do is that's the first thing, because in order to update the price feed, that changes the health factor so we can do the liquidation. Then we're going to attempt the liquidation. We pass the liquidation parameters in here. So in our data, we have these liquidation parameters. And then we're going to make sure in our contract that we can actually liquidate it. We've updated the price feed, right? So now we're going to say, can we actually liquidate this person? Remember that same script that I had for the liquidation? Same thing here. We're going to check that health factor. So we're going to get that user account data from the lending pool. Works in Solidity and it works in scripting. So basically the same thing. We're going to make sure that it's above 1. I'm sorry, below 1. If it's anything on 1 and above, we can't liquidate. So it's going to revert. Pay, don't, stop the transaction. We want to make sure that we're going to approve paying back that USDC. So remember, we're paying back USDC. We have to approve that to our lending pool address to make sure that we are good, so it can pull it from our contract. And then we're going to go ahead and calculate how much we're going to get of the other balance. And then we're going to do that liquidation call, right? That same thing, that liquidation call. We're going to pay back that API3 tokens. We're going to pay back USDC. This is the wallet we want to liquidate. And this is the debt we want to max step cover. And I don't want to receive the A tokens. I want to receive the native tokens on here. All right. And so once we receive the collateral, we're going to check on that. And then it's going to let us know, hey, we executed the liquidation. And then at the very end, we're going to pay the API3 server extension the bid amount that we bid. So if we go into the next part where we do these flash loans and stuff, we're going to swap, make sure that we have the money, and then we can pay back the bid. So you can see at the very end, I'm actually paying back the API3 server for that bid amount instead of paying it first. And so that is what makes the callback cool. And then having a little extra functions to withdraw our profits on there to our EOA, and then withdraw any ETH that we may have as well. And these are the only owner. I know that's a lot to swallow, but that's kind of the flow on there. You might have to recap on there, but basically it's the same thing as the updater. The only difference is now we're adding all this liquidation function on top. So in between updating the data feed, we got all this liquidation information, some checks and balances. Make sure we get it. We let everybody else know outside there's an event. We made the liquidation happen, and then we pay to server. Say, hey, we honored our bid. We did what we needed to do. Here's the bid amount on here, and then everybody's happy. So in order to do that, we want to deploy our OEV feed updater and our OEV feed liquidator, right? And so we want to make sure that we have all our information here available. So our lending pool address, we're going to go to our, system here, look for our deployed contracts, grab the lending pool address, going to copy that in here. And literally, you're going to do this on your own deployment that you've done. So the requirement is to actually have it. You would put your mnemonic in here. Token to repay address, if we go over here and we look at our tokens that we deployed, again, that's in our references.json. So let me see, that token to repay is the USDC. So that's our USDC with faucet. Let me grab that here. And I guess you're getting the trend on here. Like I'm pulling the data that I have.
What do you
This
mean by USDC with faucet? I mean,
Oh,
is it?
so in this USDC, like again, like I want you to play with it. So USDC doesn't
Uh,
really have a faucet. So when I minted the tokens and I wanted you to play with liquidations, what happens if you run out of USDC? Like you deposit it all in the Aave portal, you can't get it out because you've made your position bad. Well, you could just mint more, right? There's fake
yeah.
tokens. So like that's why I
Okay.
call it USDC with faucet on there.
Got it, got it.
Yeah. And then token to receive is going to be our API3 token. So if we go back into our references, it's our API3 token. Right here is our asset. Here's the ERC20 that we need for this. So we just reference all these things. Like if you were to go on to the docs of Aave, Compound, DYDX, all that's going to be listed. These are our assets. These are our token addresses, right? This USDC proxy is the oracle for the proxy. So we want to make sure that we have the aggregator adapter. Again, these are the adapters. If you look at workshop 3A, this is understanding how we have Oracle adapters to use a fork, right? Because this was designed for Chainlink, so we needed to create an adapter for us to use API3 oracles. So this is where the adapter is. This is the collateral mock proxy address. This is an important one, right? This is for testing only. And so I have this thing called OEV mock proxy, right? In order for me to do a liquidation with you guys in real time, it's impossible for me, right? I can't say ETH or API3 is going to drop 20% right now in order for me to show you a liquidation. I can't on mainnet. It's like that would destroy API3, right? So what I've done is I've created something that has a fake value, right, with a timestamp and then a reference timestamp. And so when I set the actress proxy, so when I set this adapter to have the price oracle, it's going to set a block timestamp. So like it'll be set to now, right? And so when I read it, it's going to read me the actual price feed of the API3 token. But when I do an OEV proxy and then it updates again, right? So the timestamp will change because I did it now. And then a couple blocks later, I update it and pay the OEV network. It will reference the timestamp. So then it'll return me the fake value. So I'm using the real value. I do OEV. I return the fake value, which is whatever this value is, right? And then I get a new value and then I can liquidate. So basically, I'm mocking an opportunity for me to be able to basically show you this on a liquidation on here on a real-time chat. So a little bit of trickery on my part for this OEV mock proxy, but that's why it's there. In order for me to show you that you can actually do a liquidation in real time on mainnet and like actually show it on here. So that's going to be our OEV mock proxy. And we're going to copy that in here. And then collateral asset proxy is basically our API3 proxy, which is the same aggregator adapter in here. And I kind of go over things many times, but because I don't want to reference and have you searching every script we do, I want you to be able to look at it. Oh, okay, this is where it is. The wallet to liquidate is basically our, let me start this thing here. Our front end dev and get this loaded up here. That way I can see the wallet that we're going to use. Let me just pop that in there and get this front end loaded up for us here. Basically, it's the second wallet on my mnemonic, but just so you guys can see it once it's loading up, I'm going to go through my deployer here. Aave V2 deployer. So this is going to be our one that we're getting liquidated. We know it because I just built it myself, and you'll see that it is, let me just go ahead and pop that in there. 6.2, so that's going to be what we have here. And I just happen to have a nice health factors for us to do it, but I'm going to change that again. But this is the wallet we're going to liquidate. And then the original API3 proxy, we're going to head over to market.api3.org. And this is more for you to get used to using, like different types of Oracle sources on here. So I'm going to go ahead and get the API3 Oracle source and then grab this right here. And you'll see like skip OEV rewards this is the generic one. If you want to earn OEV rewards, you have to like apply for your DApp on here. So we're just using the regular generic one. for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to go ahead and pop that here. And then the Aave Oracle Price Manager, that is in our contracts here. And pop this through. And so if we go down to our deployed Aave contracts and go into here, and we go for the Aave Price Oracle, Aave Oracle, there we go. This is our address here. Again, you would do this for any asset. Again, we're hard coding it. We know exactly what tokens that we're using, right? So I have this, random RPC for our network, and I have our mnemonic. Obviously, I'm not going to give that to you because I have a little bit of OEV money on there. So it'd be foolish of me to actually give you free money. So I have prepared another one on the side here, but we're basically ready to do the liquidations and whatnot and deploy everything we need. So let me go ahead and minimize this and bring the other one in. Make sure that is good. Let me close that EMV and I'll explain the whole flow for you. So I'm closing this out, but I just wanted to show you where I get all the sources from and whatnot here. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these deployments and delete that. And let's take it from the top. So we have a whole bunch of scripts. Remember, we have this deposit collateral, deploy our OE feed updater, which is basically just to update the price, deploy our OE feed liquidator to basically run liquidations with that same thing. I just wanted to show you there's the difference on here. So we're going to go ahead and yarn deploy OE feed feeder. You can deploy both just in case. OE feed, but you don't really need it. It's more for demo. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy that. And then it's deployed. It's going to save it right into our deployment. So this is our contract address. That's going to be our liquidator, right? And if we look at the flow, basically it's telling us to deploy the OEV liquidator. Again, in order to pay back the loan, we have to supply the contract with the tokens to pay it back. We're not at a flash loan level yet, so we can't borrow them. So we're going to have to send it over. My EOA wallet just happens to have USDC. So if we go ahead and fund the liquidator, you'll see that I'm grabbing it. I'm going to set it up with 2,000 tokens. So I'm going to go ahead and yarn fund liquidator. Oops, I left a space. And we're going to go ahead and look at that contract as well. So let me go ahead and grab that and look at it on mainnet. Now this has to be done on mainnet. We're using real money here. This is costing me transaction money. So I'm being very careful with everything I do. Believe in me, guys. Believe in me. All right. So if we look at our contract here, you see that we have our 2,000 tokens. I'm going to try to make that a little bit bigger, but I have 2,000 tokens. That's all I have in this contract, right? That's it. It's the 2,000 USDC tokens. So that's sitting on our contract, ready to pay back this loan, right? And let's go back into the OEV searcher starter, right? And so now we funded our liquidator. We want to update our mock price and Oracle right here. So this is where it's going to like be a little bit tricky because we're now changing the source of our Oracle to the fake one, and we're giving it a mock price. So if I go back, and I have so many windows here, where is my borrow lending DApp? There we go. Right, I have this price. It's ready to liquidate, but that's not really what happens because if it gets to this on a normal day, somebody would have liquidated it already, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and yarn update mock price Oracle. So all that does is change the price. We're going to change the price to this value right here. So let me just update it. Actually, this is the right price that I want to keep. All we want to do is on the bottom, you see here, I have these 3 scripts or functions that we call. We update the mock price. This is the exact price I want to be able to do the liquidation. So I'm going to keep that. That's showing the 0.99. We're going to set the mock proxy. That's going to basically saying, hey, we're using the legit Oracle. I want to change the Aave contracts to use the fake Oracle, right? So it's going to give me the right price on here. I'm sorry, update the Oracle proxy. The asset proxy is going to say, hey, I want to use the correct Oracle. So let me rephrase that again, just in case I confuse anybody. This one just updates that price to this, right? It's ready on the back end. It's not really what we're going to get when we see it. This next part, the set mock asset proxy, is going to say, hey, I wanted to use the real Oracle from API3. I want to use the API3 Oracle address. So it's going to use the original Oracle address. So it's going to give me the right price. And then I'm telling the Aave switch the Oracle proxy. I want to use, instead of using the legit one with the contracts that we don't want to change, for testing purposes, I want to change it to this mock one. So when I do the OEV update, it will give me a fake price. Did that make sense? Hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Confusing, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and call the yarn update, and it's basically yarn and the name of the script. I try to be as descriptive as possible on these, so I know they're kind of long, but I'm going to yarn update the Oracle, and it's going to basically update the mock price. It's going to send the transactions. So we're going to do three functions, right? Update the price, set the proxy address to the correct one, and then convert the proxy. Oh, and that's sometimes when I have too many function calls it goes. So let me just close these two. I'm going to, that's why I have it on there. If you do too many function calls at the same time, it just goes. So I'm going to do that last function call where we update the Oracle proxy. And let's see if it goes.
The Oracle proxy.
Yeah. So hopefully it goes. There we go. And so theoretically, I should be on a super, super duper health factor. There we go. So I have a nice health factor, right?
We are good now.
Yeah. So theoretically, we are looking into the future. It's 30 seconds in the future, right? We have this auction bid, right? And we are like, okay, in 30 seconds, we know that this price is going to go down to this. Oh, I can uncomment this too. Oops. Let me undo that. I'll worry about it later. We're going to look at this. Hey, in 30 seconds, it's going to be this price. We know this because we are looking at the OEV feeder. So let me go ahead and bring this back. There is this thing in the documentation saying, hey, if you are a searcher, this is the way the DAPIs work. You can look at each beacon set. This is one beacon set. This is the way our oracles work. The beacon set for every one of these things. It looks horrible in data, right? I'm going to paint it nice. But if you look at this data, the error node that's publishing this value for this oracle, and this is the timestamp. So we know every 30 seconds in the future that this is what the price is going to be. This is how we can dictate everyone for every one of these single price feeds that we have on the market.api3.org. Right? If we just look at any mainnet, and I'm just going to grab this one, whatever is available here, and I look at this 8, whatever, we can see 30 seconds in the future what's being signed off on this back end here. So we know what to bid on here. So that's difficult, right? So I already made it for you. So it's this fetch OEV sign data. Basically goes through each one to see how many notaries are on there, what the DAP we're going to feed. So we can just literally hand type to see what feed we're going to read. Goes through all the error nodes, and it gives back the median value of all the oracles. That's what the OEV server is going to give us the price value of on there. So in our submit, bid, and liquidate function here, we know our auction length is 30 seconds. We know the bidding phase is 25 seconds. The buffer is going to be 3 seconds for us. We want to make sure we don't do anything too late where we miss something. And then we are using this version 1 of this auction, and we are using DAP ID 1 for our auctions. We're betting on this DAP, right? Our generic DAP. And so we have a basic layout of all the providers. We were bidding on the OEV network. We want to update on, Manus chain or whichever chain we want to do this from. We're building up our wallets and objects. We want to make sure that this is the right user we're going to liquidate. We can do our bid amount. My bid amount is going to be super, super low. I want to update API3 USD Oracle. For this one, it could be ETHUSD. All you have to do is change it right here and change it. I want ETHUSD, wrap BTC USD on there. I'm putting all the ABIs manually so you can make sure you can see what function I'm call. You'll see that price oracles. I want to see the price oracle value of API3 on this testnet or mainnet, and price of USDC on this testnet. And I want to get all the user data, right? I want to get the details to make sure they're liquidable. I want to see all that data, right? I want to make sure in the future, in 30 seconds, can they be liquidated, right? So I want to look in the future. I'm going to say, okay, the asset price now, and then based on the median price on all this signed data, right? On all this median price of all these Oracle data that looks horrible. With this function call, I should be able to average that price 30 seconds in the future. If it's good, let's bid on it, right? If it's good, let's go ahead and bid and make this magic happen. If it's bad, oh, no bueno, right? Like, okay, we'll bid again next time or skip the bid, right? So we're doing all this math already here, and it's going to give me the projected health factor, right? And then right here, it's just basically running through like, is the bidding time going to be good enough? Can I bid in time? And that's this function. Bid topic is something that we've already seen already on the OEV v2 network. So we're just basically saying, hey, in this 30-second range, is this look good? Can I sign off on it? This is the details on this bid. It's meant for this 30-second blank timestamp. Bid details, who's doing the liquidating? That's our smart contract wallet, right? That's who we're referring to, this deployments.json. This is going to be doing the liquidating. So we're just passing that information into here, saying, hey, these are the details for this auction bid. And then we actually perform the OEV update and liquidations in this function call. So I build my liquidator function contract for this deployed contract, right? I'm just the liquidator ABI, and this is our deployments that it's referencing to. And then all the parameters that we have, basically the same thing on the updater, except we're adding in our details of our liquidation parameters, which is the collateral, the depth, the user to liquidate, and the depth to cover. We know that this is what we need to do. Right. And then it's going to give us a console log. It's going to actually pay bid and update feed. If you look at the liquidator, that's that function right here where it's pay bid and update feed. Right. And then it's basically going to, oops, sorry, wrong one. Basically going to take it to us and say, okay, Oracle update and liquidation is performed when it's complete, because it all happens on the smart contract level. Then, because we updated the price feed, again, if you remember from workshop 2, we have to let the API3 server know, hey, we did what we needed to do. We reported the fulfillment, and we don't get slashed to make sure that we report that data. And so it confirms the fulfillment, and then we're good. And then right here, we just, the function call to place the bid. We want to make sure that we place the bid. This is the function call that starts it all off. So we place our bid. We get the detailed data sign from that function call, right? We want to see what the median price is for that value that's coming up, right? We want to calculate the projected health factor to let that go. I've commented this out because I know if we do it real time, it will fail, but I'll show you, because we don't want our script to run if it's going to fail. We don't want to bid, waste our money, right? So it'll say position is not liquidable, go. If it does pass, then we know the position would be liquidable with the new price and proceed to bid. And so then we go ahead and make our bid on here. So we make sure that we do it within the right time frame. And then it basically gives our bid topic, big details, and then gives us, I just console log everything out here so you can see exactly what you're bidding on, all the details. So we place our bid. We said, this is our bid. This is what we want to bid on. This is how much we want to bid, which we set on the top, right? And then basically it's going to listen for did we win or not in the next 25 seconds, right? Did we win? If we have that 5 seconds to update, right? And then here's all the details on our liquidation parameters. We want to have that token to receive. Remember our .env, the token to repay, the user that we want to liquidate, and the depth to cover, which is always max on here. And then it's going to go ahead and perform the OEV update liquidation with all this information. And then we have it already set up in our contract. We just put it in the scripts, and then it's going to say, hey, we've done everything, report the fulfillment and whatnot. Okay, so that's a lot of information, right? Definitely come back and read that. But let's go ahead and make it happen. So these are all the details that we have in the front, right? We want to make sure that we are doing is our bid is this, and we are bidding this Oracle, right? So this one will fail because I haven't commented out, but let's go ahead and try it. Yarn submit bid update and liquidate. Yes, it could be shorter, but I wanted to be detailed on that. So it's going to go here. It's going to calculate all the median price. It's going to say, oh, API3 USD. It's getting to fetch all this details, right? All about, okay, what's the DPA name? If you look at the docs, all this is done for you already, but we know that the next median price in 30 seconds is going to be 82 cents. We know that, right? So if the price of 82 cents in this person's position is going to liquidate them, we know that we can then make money, or we're not, right? But based on the price and the way we have it, we know that this is not going to be good. So we're just going to basically say, hey, no, this is not going to be a good health factor. Its position would not be liquidable. It's going to give me a new price. It's going to abort, right? So I'm going to comment that out because we have my fake token, right? So if I do the update Oracle, it should be able to liquidate here. So let me go ahead and comment that little out. So the projected health factor. So this is the function that stops me. So if I do it now, we should be able to liquidate because it's going to update the Oracle, and then it's going to give me that fake value. And then it's going to go ahead and liquidate the position, and then I win, right? So waiting for the bid to reorder. So now I've bid it. We just wait for that win. Maybe it's 20 seconds. Maybe I did it at the beginning of the auction, maybe at the end of the auction. Yeah. So I have to see, did I win or did I not?
You're gonna win it.
Yeah. I'm the only one bidding on it right now, especially on the. There we go. So now the bid's been awarding. So I'm going to perform the Oracle update and liquidation. So this is all happening on the smart contract level. I'm passing the parameters with the signature to update it, right? Oracle update, liquidation has been performed. And it's all done. I've confirmed fulfillment. I didn't get slashed. I won the money, right? So if I go back to my smart contract, remember we passed just 200 USDC tokens, right? And that was all we had. So if I refresh it now, I now have two tokens, right? I paid back what I could on the USDC, and I got back the mock API3 tokens on here. So I performed the liquidation. I did the update. My contract now has the profit. Now I can call that contract to withdraw, sell it, do whatever I need, and then make it happen. Right. This only worked because we had that extra 2,000 USDC dollars. So in the next lesson, it's about using flash loans. Right. I have no money. I want it. Right. There's a $10 million liquidation. I won the bid, but I don't have $10 million. Let me borrow it for real quick, right? So that's where we're going to go on the next part. I know that's a lot of information to swallow. That's why we do it recorded, so you can go back. If you have any information or like any questions on any of the information, feel free to question. If it's super over the top, I might have my lead in there, but there's a lot of complicated information that I made scripts for to make it very simple for you of understanding the median price in the future, and then getting these scripts ready to go for you to have a liquidator ready to pop on your own borrow lending app on there. So hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully this excites you, right? Because
Yeah.
liquidations happen. Again, API3 had probably one of the best performances they had last week in one of like the biggest liquidations we've ever had in history. A lot of money. So whatever I was willing to bid, right? Whatever I was willing to bid in a real competition, this bidding price, I would see obviously would never be so low on a real bid. I would bid some real money to make $1 million, $3 million liquidation, right? And again, that is a split between the DApp that is using our Oracle. They don't have to do anything special, right? The DApp didn't do anything other than using our Oracle, and they get money back, right? When other Oracles, they do not. So they are losing value. We fight so hard to get liquidity. We give you APRs, we give you tokens or anything for people to deposit and borrow. All you have to do with us is just literally use our Oracle, right? We'll give
Yeah.
you an app ID, and now there becomes competition for your DApp in order to get liquidated. So you'll actually get money back for using. That's why I think Oracles that pay you, this is how we pay you, right? So this is all coming full force of now you can control the way the price Oracles work. Now you as a searcher have the advantage to basically not have to spam transactions, but actually win the bid and then do it through a smart contract. So we're almost there to a full OEV flash loan with no money in here. This was just an example with money. Again, we're doing it step by step by step so you guys can understand it, process it, play with it. And then on the next one, we'll be talking about flash loans, borrow that money that's sitting on that Aave protocol or Compound or any of those other, borrow lending applications, and then pay back the loan, win, and then profit, right? So if there's no other questions, I think that's it.
I mean, yeah, it has been, I mean, the amazing workshop till now. You know why? It's pretty amazing to see how far we have come from our last workshop on a traditional liquidations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, today we dived deep into the OAV. Felt like, we have
Yeah.
upgraded from using a flip phone to getting our hands onto the latest smartphone. So yeah, I mean, just
Yeah.
so yeah. Uh,
The, I
it
say
was
that.
really good. I mean, when we thought about liquidations, we are we are not just about being fastest, but it's also give. I mean, adding the new whole dimension to the strategy, how we do the liquidations, and it's not just about the speed, but being I mean being more smart on about it, right?
Yep. Yeah. My biggest issue, and again, this is for me historically, like when I started learning the code, I think like around 2020, 2021, I would look at videos online and it would frustrate me so much because everybody would start like, hey, here we go, we're going to do this
Yeah,
series, and then everywhere where I wanted to go, that's where it stopped, right?
yeah,
And so I go to the next video and the same person takes me and then it stops, and I'm like, wait a minute,
yeah,
what happened? So as dev relations understand, I'm going past what API3 does, right? I just Oracle's like, okay, one workshop done, but
yeah,
now I'm doing DevRel for Aave now, and pretty soon we're going to learn Dex, so I'm like almost DevReling for Dex, right? But explaining how the whole flow goes so you understand how liquidations work, understand how the process works, and then understanding what a lot of people in PvP, right? Like it's no one wants you to do liquidations because it's very PvP. As soon as you do it, now we have competition, right? But in order for us to grow, that's what we need. So hopefully with this series, you kind of understand more of the DeFi, and then you understand how the liquidation works. Pretty soon, all these other oracles, they're going to start using some kind of OEV solution. It's
yeah,
slowly starting, right? But we're
yeah,
here, we're live, so we're looking good. We're looking good.
yeah. I mean, big shout out to Bilajitsu from the API3 for breaking down this all for us. And I mean, it's like whether you are just starting out or you have been in the game for a while. I hope you are walking away with some practical knowledge, you can actually use it and implement in your tab in your project.
Yeah,
So thank you so much, all of you, to join us for this amazing workshop. Thank you, Bilajitsu, as well, for joining us, for providing us this amazing practical knowledge. And if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed, don't worry about it. We are all there once. I mean, there is we do have the repo documentation is there. So, and most importantly, this community, we do have the amazing community. We are here to help you out. We do have the recordings as well in available on the YouTube. So feel free to grab the all the remaining knowledge from there. And we'll see you on the next workshop.
yeah,
Uh, keep those questions coming to us. Keep
yeah,
experimenting, and don't afraid to jump in. And can't wait what you all guys are creating. And don't hesitate to share it with us. Feel free to share it with us on the Twitter. We will happily seeing it and sharing it with our community for sure.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Feel free. Like I grinded to make all these documents and the code, so yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
Use it.
We have to use that one.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I mean, to be very honest, I mean, having a good documentation to follow any tutorial or anything, I mean, any steps or anything, it's really important to have the very good documentations. And that's we really, personally really appreciate that as we travel, we try our best to prepare a good documentations, good tutorials. So, uh, developers community do follow it, and they do build something very interesting and good thing, right? So, yeah, you are our competition, Kobe.
yeah. Well, glad
Okay.
to hear it. So 2 weeks, about 2 weeks from now, we'll be working flash loans on
Yeah,
there. So it's
yeah,
not going to be as
that's good.
complicated. We're going to get very simple. For those that are snooping, you could probably see it on the API3 Eco. I have flash loans for Aave V2 and V3 on there. So we'll be talking about a lot of stuff on there. So like, yeah, we're keeping it up to date on there.
Yep.
So yeah, staying,
Next week we're gonna
relevant.
have the 1 hour on the flash launch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Cool.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, Billy, once more. See you on the next week. Take care.
On
Bye
the next
bye.
one. See ya.